is the monarch of this house. Strangers enter, unacquainted, shake hands, and depart friends. My name is Jesse Branson Sr. I'm the chairman of this year's 19th annual Dr. Martin Luther King program, and we are excited that you are here. We have some talent to showcase this morning, and we think you're going to be delighted. At this time, we're going to have one of our past presidents, Brother Paul Murdoch, come up and give us your morning welcome. Give him a hand as he comes, please.
Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, and contestants, and everybody else that's here with us today. We appreciate you coming out to support this function. Just to give you a little history, this is our 19th year that we're having the MLK Luncheon, and it seems to grow every year, and we hope that it will continue to grow. But really, it's about the kids today and the performances that you will see. You will see that they've put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of practice into it. And this is one of our really key programs that the chapter does. We're just so excited that these kids actually put the time and effort, and hopefully you guys will see all of the effort that's put into it, and they will give wonderful presentations.
Greetings on behalf of the Newark Alpha, South Alpha Lambda chapter. We recently celebrated 91 years here in Newark, 91 years, and thank you for supporting this program. So very quickly, in your program you have 3 names, and I'd just like to take about 2 minutes in full to explain those 3 names. The first that you'll see is Jim Dave Wilson. So later today we're going to present the Jim Dave Wilson Cup and Awards. Jim Dave Wilson was an integral part of the chapter for decades and decades. He is the founding inspiration for the Belford B. Lawson Oratorical Contest and Theme. Brother Jim Dave Wilson went back to his school in Albany, Georgia to attend every reunion. From the day he graduated, he went back every year. If he was here in the Eastern region, you would certainly see him at every Alpha event in the Eastern region and on the national level as well. So Jim Dave Wilson had a passion for education, and he certainly had a passion for Alpha. The next name that you see in your program is Belford V. Lawson, Oratorical Contest. Gifted lawyer who argued before the Supreme Court, and 16th General President of the National Fraternity. Belford V. Lawson and others like Charles Hamilton Houston were doing the work behind the scenes at the Supreme Court supporting Dr. King and the events that we have today, things that we take for granted. So in the last couple days, of course, we've seen that even the President of the United States from time to time says things that we thought we had moved beyond. So as a 52-year-old man who can remember before the King holiday, my mother attended a segregated school here in Jersey, as quiet as that's kept, and my dad attended segregated schools down south. We thought that we were beyond that, but we're always reminded, unfortunately, in recent days that there's still a need for the work of Dr. King, even in 2018, as we move forward. So the last thing I want to note, on the shield behind me, you see 2 words, knowledge and achievement. And to all the young men speaking today, they're going to bring us some knowledge and achievement. They're gifted orators. Many of the brothers and some individuals here had the opportunity to see them at the preliminaries. And I'm really looking forward to the great work and the oratory that we're going to have today.
First thing I want to do is just commend our president. I think that it is so important to encourage men, especially when they're playing a strong leadership role. So if you don't mind, let's give it up for him. Let's give it up for him. Amen. Secondly, let me extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you all who have come to be a part of this today. It is so critical. It is so vital. I am extraordinarily, phenomenally proud of Alpha Phi Alpha, who puts this on every year. And it showcases, if you will, the genius of our African American young men And it certainly puts on display something other than what you see on CNN and other channels where they put us always in an environment to make us look bad. Today we showcase knowledge. Today we showcase achievement. And we walk in the legacy of great men who have gone before us that have represented that very thing. I cannot commend you enough for sharing with us today in this place in order to promote, if you will, economic development in our own community, and I give God the praise for that.
Before I even get started with the invocation and the blessing of the food, most important part for some, I just want to say thank you to the first the students for having the courage to be trailblazers. Secondly, the parents, teachers, guardians, and everyone else for supporting them. And lastly, everyone else in the room, because it's through your support of this event and filling this room that gives them a place where they can know their worth. This weekend marks 50 years of someone who celebrated the underserved, undervalued, and underappreciated. But we know that's just someone else's perception, but it's not your truth. So you have to stay true to your truth and continue to be agents of change for what you want to do. If we could just bow our heads. Father, we come before you today just saying thank you. Thank you for a day which we have not seen, an opportunity which we have not yet met. We thank you for this place where these young men will show the world who they are and what their potential is. And some of them will not even know the true depth of their potential. This is just going to be a scratch of the surface of who they will become. Let them not forget those behind, and let them continue to lift up others as everyone else in here is doing. Let us remember that Monday is not a day off, but a day on for service and helping others. And God, we just ask that you bless this food which has been prepared for us. Let it nourish our bodies, but more importantly, nourish our spirits and our minds. Let us know that history has taught us it doesn't matter what it looks like today, because there's always opportunity for change if we just believe. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Boxer named Cassius Clay was yelling out to the world that I am the greatest. I am the greatest. I am the greatest. And you know what? That had an effect on my generation. That was a start of something awesome.
Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. emerges from his magical time machine and looks around. Confused and disoriented, he surveys his surroundings, noticing a newspaper on the sidewalk. Bending down, he spots the dateline, November 1st, 2016, Memphis. He can't believe his eyes. I'm still in Memphis, he wonders. The last thing he remembers is standing on his hotel balcony. Now it's 2016. Looking for a place to sit down and clear his head, he spots a deli across the street. He crosses and enters. He takes a seat at a table, chin glued to his chest, trying not to be noticed. He slowly raises his head at the sound of a television in the corner broadcasting the news. Squinting, he makes out a black anchorwoman relating the news of the day. He's taken aback. Not once had he seen a black woman hosting a news program. He exits the deli and stands on the sidewalk. A couple walks across the street holding hands, a black man and a white woman. He stares after them, shocked by their open affection. His mind goes instantly to Richard and Mildred Loving, an interracial couple prohibited from marrying in 1960s Virginia. Richard was jailed for a year for marrying a woman of another race before appealing his unjust jailing to the Supreme Court. Dr. King fears for the couple. He surveys the block for potential trouble, but no one even notices them. Now in awe of this seemingly utopian world, Dr. King picks up the newspaper he'd seen before, reading the front page headline, Barack Obama's presidency coming to a close. He gasps at the photograph of a black man waving to a crowd. The American president is black? In shock, he recalls conversations with his friends and fellow activists, Reverend Jesse Jackson and Reverend Ralph Abernathy. They were always impatient in their fights for justice, and he'd frequently remind them that the good comes slowly. And it had. 50 years of waiting, and the good had arrived. He recalls his final speech to the sanitation workers in the Church of God here in Memphis. His last words were about his people getting to the promised land. "And I've seen the promised land," he said. "I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. This must be it. This is the promised land." He devoted his life to ending injustice, and now the job seems done. He hopes his friends are still alive to savor this moment. To have a black president surely means racial injustice no longer exists. Then, scanning down the front page, he notices some other headlines. Minority incarceration rates remain high. Voter disenfranchisement laws expand nationwide. He is wondering what to make of American society when his thoughts are interrupted by the sound of a police cruiser roaring from behind him, siren blaring. The car screeches to a halt next to a black teenager strolling down the sidewalk with a backpack on. Two officers jump out and begin yelling in the boy's face. "What are you doing here? What's in your backpack? Where are you going?" The questions come faster than the young boy can reply. He tries to squeeze in a response, attempting to explain that he's just walking home from a friend's house. "Did you just interrupt me?" one of the officers screams. The boy starts to cry. One of the officers pushes him against the wall behind them. "I'm not going to see you around here again, am I?" The boy picks up his backpack and runs away. King watches the officers share a smirk as they return to their car and drive off. The euphoric wave that had washed over him minutes before recedes into a sea of dread and fear. He feels naive to have thought that injustice could have been so quickly eradicated. 50 years is a long time, but maybe he needed to heed his own advice. Change is slow. He remembers a sermon he delivered a few years before his death. One of its lines was, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." If there are so many signs of improvement, why does it sometimes seem like nothing has changed? Perhaps a reason for this mixed perception of societal progress is that our standards for decency and compassion expand, even as our struggles for justice succeed. Perhaps this very reality has been the driving force for change since the dawn of time. Life today is better than it was 50 years ago, but the struggle is not over. Do we think that the fight for racial justice ended when slavery was abolished? Or that the women's rights movement came to a close when women got the right to vote? Of course not. There has always been and will always be a fight to be fought, ground to be broken, and justice to be won. It was Dr. King that said that human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. If Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were here today, he would have the following message for the world. Good work. Now keep fighting. Thank you.
There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular. But he must take it because conscience tells him that it is right. Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? These words resonated from the oratory of Dr. King as he fought relentlessly to be a voice of reason in a calamitous and unjust world. 50 years ago, he gave the ultimate price when he chose to take a position that was not safe, not politic, not popular, but right. Right for all mankind. What would his conscience say When the leader of the free world tweets profane speech to disparage citizens of the country. When young football players protesting racism are called unimaginable names. When leaders of this country are caught up in a vicious cycle of lies, corruption, and misinformation. When the norm now seems to be a natural acceptance of evil instead of good. When the main focus of the ruling party is to deny access to health insurance for poor people. Dr. King said, we should have to do more than register and more than vote. We should have to create leaders who embody virtues we can respect, who have moral and ethical principles we can apply with enthusiasm. The ultimate measure of man is not where he stands in the moments of comfort, but where he stands in a time of challenge and controversy. Today, he will speak out. He will not be silent. What does your conscience say? When 10-year-old Rosa Maris Hernandez, who has cerebral palsy, was taken from the hospital after having surgery and transported to the detention center by ICE. Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. For Rosa and all the dreamers, today, he will speak out. He will let his voice be heard. What does your conscience say when innocent men and women in New York City are mowed down by a crazed man using the name of ISIS? When 58 innocent people enjoying a concert in Las Vegas are shot by a man who had no regard for human life? When 28 people of a small town in Texas attending church on Sunday are mercilessly gunned down? The worst mass murders has happened in the last 6 years, and Congress fails to address gun control. Dr. King said, hate begets hate. Violence begets violence. Toughness begets greater toughness. We must meet the forces of hate with the power of love. Returning violence for violence multiplies violence. Adding a deeper night of a darkness already devoid in stars. He would not be silent. Dr. King was a man of peace and hope. His dream is still relevant today. In his famous I Have a Dream speech, he said, I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places shall be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. So, for the parishioners of Texas Baptist Church, he would pray. For the dreamers and children of all those seeking a better life, he would protest. For ISIS and Al-Qaeda, he will speak up against violence. For Colin Kaepernick and all the football players brave enough to take a knee, he will support. Dr. King said, never be afraid to do what's right, especially if the well-being of a person or animal is at stake. Society's punishments are small compared to the wounds being inflicted on our soul when we look the other way. Dr. King would march. Dr. King would speak up. Dr. King would not be silent, and neither should we. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shadira Wisdom Okafor. I'm in the 6th grade at Mary P. Thomas Charter School, located in Newark, New Jersey. I'm 11 years old and currently serve as the recording secretary of the Select Elementary Student Council. I was born in Nigeria, and I am a proud Nigerian from the Igbo tribe in the state of Anambra. As Dr. King would salute you with peace and greetings. In my language, we greet you with Udo Ekenemunu. As Dr. King once stated, We may have all come in different ships, but we're all in the same boat now. That is due to the fact that we're judged first by the color of our skin and not the contents of our character. Dr. King was a man of great faith. He guided our country in the direction of peace and equality when everyone seems to be outraged by the senseless killings and injustice of marginalized individuals. Dr. King spoke truth to power, not just for his generation, but for generations to come. Dr. King fought and will continue to fight, if he were alive today, to eliminate segregation and create equal opportunities for all people, regardless of the person's color, religion, education, or economic background. If Dr. King were alive today, he would continue to fight for the integration and equality in our schools. In writing my essay, I realized that as an 11-year-old African, I have never been in the same class as a white scholar my age. Why is that? Or better yet, why is it that students that live within a 10-mile radius from the city of Newark have a higher high school graduation rate? Is it because of access to better resources such as books and technology? In 17 days, a New Jersey wealthy school district will spend $3.6 million to ensure that every scholar has a laptop or tablet in their hands. This gives them even more of an advantage over the poor school districts. Ask yourselves, how would Dr. King feel about this unfair advantage in the educational system? I believe Dr. King would oppose the fact that in 2018, a zip code still determines the quality of a child's education. As I look at my parents, my mom won a visa lottery that allowed her and my family to come to the United States. Previously, while living in Africa, my mom was a well-trained property lawyer. Now that I live in America, she's a certified nursing assistant who is presently going for a bachelor's degree in nursing at Felician University. It would not be possible for my mom to go there or to even become a certified nursing assistant if Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did not fight for equal rights and privileges for everyone. As I look at my dad, he was a successful electrical engineer in Africa. In America, he presently operates his own tow truck company as well as an online business. Dr. King was also known for his nonviolent response. And if you're alive today, I believe he would be extremely proud of the Black Lives Matter nonviolent movement that mirrors his own nonviolent marches. Dr. King would appreciate the fact that the protesters are a diverse group of people who want to see everyone be treated equally and fairly. Dr. King would appreciate the way the protesters marched to increase the public's awareness concerning police brutality. If Dr. King were alive today, he would be proud of the fact that a few of my school's affirmation states, "I am ready to learn, and what hurts my brothers hurts me." My school believes that it takes a village to raise a child. During Dr. King's time, he demonstrated how unity amongst all people was the ingredient needed to overcome the many challenges the people faced during that time. Presently, Dr. King's perspective would find him reflecting on a need for people to get out and vote during all elections and not just the presidential election. He would be disappointed by the fact that we do not use boycotts to gain justice and awareness for issues that impact our people. In closing, Dr. King was a man of great faith. My name, Chidera, means what God has written is written and cannot be changed. Everything Dr. King did was through his belief and faith in God. Dr. King's history has been written and cannot be erased. Dr. King once said, "We are not makers of history, we are made by history." It is up to my generation and future generations to walk in the destiny that Dr. King projected in his work and his writings. Dr. King would want us to graduate from high school, go to college, help our communities, and become men who are worthy of respect. In the spirit of what Dr. King was trying to accomplish, what are we willing to boycott? So I ask you today, will you do what it takes to keep the memory of the dream and the dream alive? Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is such an honor to be able to perform here today. Now, my speech will not just be about facts. When Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When Martin Luther King Jr. got up in front of the crowd in Washington, D.C. during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, he had an idea and an outline for what he was going to say. But more than anything, he spoke from his heart, and with passion leading the way, he made history on that day. And this speech is a little bit like that. Now, I don't improvise in any way. In fact, I had a dream not very long ago where I was asked to improvise a poem in front of my peers, and that was terrifying. So, no improvisation here. But this speech will be a little bit like Dr. King's because it comes more from the heart than from the facts. In order to really see what Dr. Martin Luther King would feel today, we can't just look at statistics. We have to look at reality. Dr. King brought so many people together. He preached nonviolence, and he changed lives forever. Refused to be silenced, and even when the silence snuck up and stole him, everyone remembered his name. They framed it in everlasting fame, and things have never been the same. Or have they? Because I see similar things happening today. It's been almost 50 years of violence and change. If Dr. King were to return today, what would he have to say? First, he'd be disappointed, because we have cops doing whatever they want, murdering, raping, and pillaging, all protected by the law. Law, which is a matter of power, not justice. So obviously, the power scale has not changed that much. Because in this nation, we are trained to look out for only those who look and act like us. And when we refer to the white majority, we're actually talking about a very select group of white, straight men holding down all the rest. He would look in sadness at the prison system because the people in power have found a way to reintroduce slavery. Prison labor costs something like 50 cents. It makes economic sense for the police to go into a poor neighborhood and round up some people who normally never would end up in prison. But because of the color of their skin and their economic position, no one listens. They are put to work in prison, making clothes and tending fields, forced to support a system that wants to hold them down, because we need cheap labor to keep our country moving. But that's not enough, because we have SWAT teams breaking into houses, throwing flashbang grenades, burning limbs and faces, because they say they're rooting out drugs and gangs. So they arrest and hospitalize the residents of the house, gut it for anything valuable in front of everybody's eyes, and nobody's even that surprised. We have so many cases of police murder and rape of black men and women, and people pay attention for a while and say it's a cause, then they drift away, and the police and the government get away again. Dr. King wanted to hold those in power accountable, and since he has left, we seem to have had a lot of trouble doing that. He would just look at the news, all the things the government is doing, without the people being able to do anything except resist. And even though they persist, the government insists that it is on the right side. The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. The benefits aren't as widespread as the government would like us to see them. Because the truth is that the men in government have the power to determine the reality of the systems of those they wish to keep under them. And it's not just people of color. It's women and the LGBT community as well. It's immigrants and poor whites as well. It's Muslims and other non-Christians as well. And immigrants and poor whites as well. And their lives are controlled by biases implemented against them in the economic, housing, government, job, and education systems. It's no coincidence that more white men graduate from college and become successful people than anyone else. But Dr. King would also be happy, because although things look pretty bad, we have made a lot of progress. I mean, I can come in, an agnostic, ethnically Jewish, quarter Jamaican with white skin and hair that's clearly not pure Caucasian, and I don't face discrimination. I have a chance to be judged by the content of my character and not just the color of my skin. I can play basketball with a dominantly black but diverse group of friends, not because I am part black, but because I'm a good player. I have white friends that I can help in geometry, not just because I look similar to them, but because I can help them to understand their work. But I understand that my situation is far from standard. So I finally think that Dr. King would be driven to continue his work, because we need to keep on marching. Because although we might think that little black boys and little black girls can join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers, the situation is really anything but. Because anyone who looks or acts or thinks or believes different, we mark as other. Even though we let them in, we still try to force them out. Segregation without publication. A covert system of ideas and predispositions that put people into predetermined positions before they can even voice their opinions. So although we might look at a few strong points of diversity and equity and say we have reached the mountaintop, we are a long way from ever being able to stop. We have ignited the light, but we have not driven out darkness. We have asked ourselves what we can do to help others, and many of us have wrongly convinced ourselves that the answer is nothing. Yet we say we hear freedom ring. But when we put it all in perspective, we're only chasing the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King. Thank you.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Antoine Jenkins. I am 12 years old. I am a member of the Student Council at Metropolitan Charter School. Our motto is, it takes a village to raise a child. Dr. King's life emphasized the responsibility of the village and that he helped us realize that we all play a part in society and should always be willing to assist a brother, sister in need. If Dr. King were alive today, I believe he would be unhappy about the violence that is happening within our communities. If Dr. King were alive today, I believe he would be extremely disappointed in the way innocent black men such as Trayvon Martin and Eric Garner were killed without cause or reason. I believe these black men were killed because they are perceived as dangerous. I believe these innocent men were killed because of the color of their skin. If Dr. King were alive today, I believe he would be disappointed by the fact that black men and women are still being judged by the color of their skin and not by the content of their character. Not long ago, demonstrators started to protest against police brutality and racial profiling. Ordinary citizens as well as celebrities have marched to bring further awareness to society to concerning these issues. To show his frustration about the recent murders of innocent individuals. One of the best quarterbacks in recent years, Colin Kaepernick, took a knee during the national anthem because he was disturbed in the increase in police brutality. Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, wanted all his players to stand during the national anthem and even threatened to remove the player from the team if they failed to salute the flag. Protests broke out across the NFL, and many players followed the same stance that Colin Kaepernick took. Recently, an Indiana lawmaker legislation that recommended that fans get a refund if a player takes a knee during the Star Spangled Banner performance. I believe Dr. King will be upset over the fact that makers are introducing laws demanding respect for a flag, but no laws are being passed to oppose police killings of innocent individuals. I believe if Dr. King were alive today, he would take a knee as well. In addition, I believe Dr. King would be extremely proud of the way LeBron James opposed of the senseless killings of our brothers and sisters. As the #1 basketball player, LeBron James wore a black hoodie during a warm-up drill in memory of Trayvon Martin, and during another drill, he also wore I Can't Breathe t-shirt in memory of Eric Garner. Dr. King would be proud of the fact that LeBron used his fame to promote an equality message written on his black and white sneakers at a recent game in D.C. to criticize the Trump administration. In addition, Dr. King will love the fact that LeBron James built a playground for inner city kids in an effort to build a better community for everyone to live in. Dr. King was a kind and positive individual who never believed in violence. If Dr. King were alive today, I believe the future will be different. We will be further along as a result of his peaceful protests and powerful boycotts. Dr. King believed in the use of peaceful demonstrations. He will support groups like Black Lives Matter, who hosts nonviolent demonstrations while acting with a sense of love and calmness. Dr. King believed that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Dr. King had a major impact on the world. His leadership would gain the respect of many political leaders who have the potential power to enact major change. He will fight for affordable housing and health care. He will fight for higher minimum wages for everyone. We are challenged to develop into individuals that want to see a better place for everyone to live in. Dr. King had a major impact on the world as we know. Dr. King never believed in violence. What would you do if you were Dr. King? Would you take a knee or be Jerry Jones to stand? Dr. King never believed in violence. Dr. King would take a knee in justice. Dr. King would take a knee to impeach 45. Dr. King would support Colin Kaepernick. Dr. King would take a memory of Trayvon Martin and Eric Garner. So I ask you, what will you take a knee against? Thank you.
A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. A house divided against itself will fall. A nation divided against itself will not stand. This would most certainly be Dr. King's perspective on the world today. In recent months, we have seen our country descend into an abyss of discrimination, hate, and violence, unprecedented in recent years. We were surprised by the emboldened actions of white supremacists who no longer see the need for disguise. The world watched in consternation as Heather Heyer was viciously mowed down by a white supremacist while protesting at a rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. That day, 35 people were treated for injuries after that incident. Heather died protesting hate. Just like Dr. King, she paid with her life. Dr. King spoke out against violence. Dr. King said, "The ultimate weakness of violence is that it is a descending spiral, begetting the very thing it seeks to destroy. Instead of diminishing evil, it multiplies it. Through violence, you may murder the liar, but cannot murder the lie, nor establish the truth." Dr. King would be on the forefront of the charge for peace and nonviolence. Today, our nation is embroiled in a cycle of disunity and conflict that pervades the very fabric of our democracy. Dr. King fought for unity. He would think and say now what he said then. Hate is just as injurious to the hater as it is to the hated. Like an unchecked cancer, hate corrodes the personality and eats away at the very fabric of unity. Many of our inner conflicts are rooted in hate. That is why psychiatrists say hate is too great a burden to bear. Dr. King protested with the sanitation workers in Memphis. He led the fight to desegregate the buses that prevented black people from choosing a seat on the bus. He marched on Washington to fight for jobs and freedom. He marched in the Poor People's Campaign for economic justice and housing for the poor. We see him with the unemployed fighting for better jobs. We see him with the football players protesting hate. We see him with the parents who have lost their sons to gun violence, seeking new gun laws. Most of all, we see him at his pulpit giving comfort to the lower spirit. Dr. King was stirred by the plight of African Americans. Today, they can ride in the front of the bus, but cannot afford to go to college. Today, they can play at any playground, but black people have consistently accounted for close to half of the country's homicide victims, even though blacks only comprise 13.3% of the population. He would be deeply stirred by the fact that 30% of black men in Los Angeles and New York are out of work or out of college. And worse in Chicago, where nearly 50% of black men, 20 to 24, are neither working or in school. Today, even though he marched for voting rights, 50 years later, it is still a controversial issue. Like he said in his Nobel Peace Prize speech, he said, "I have the audacity to believe that people everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. I believe that what self-centered men have torn down, men other-centered can build up. And the lion and the lamb shall lie down together under its own vine and fig tree, and none shall be afraid." Today, he would say, "I still believe we can overcome one day." Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Isaiah Miller, and I'm in the 6th grade and attend Mary P. Thomas Charter School. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stood for civil rights and helped change the world as we know it. Although he tried really hard to make a difference, there's still much work to be done. I believe Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. will have a very strong perspective on today's world. Today I will be focusing on Dr. King's perspective on two major issues: the inequalities in education and police brutality. Dr. King stood greatly for education and proved his love for knowledge in his own educational career. Dr. King attended college at 15 years old, earned 2 bachelor's degrees and 1 PhD. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said this in his: "The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character. That's the goal of true education." Dr. King overcame the inequalities in education in his day and succeeded. Unfortunately, that's not the case for all students. Today, many students still don't have the tools to succeed like they really could because of the inequalities in education. In the past, black kids, or should I say colored kids, did not get the same education as white kids. Today, we still have similar issues, but it's not necessarily black versus white, but rich versus poor. See, if you were to attend a school in the affluent area versus a school in the poor area, you'll see many differences. One major difference would be the educational facilities. Many of the schools are state-of-the-art in affluent areas with a room designed for their purpose. For example, the school have a cafeteria for meals, gymnasium for PE, and an auditorium for performances. However, in poor communities, many times the areas designated for these activities are shared spaces. Also, schools in affluent areas do not have to worry about the lack of technology or textbooks, but schools in poor areas do. Although we do not have the same resources, we are all still required to still pass the same test. Yes. We've come a long way, but we have a longer way to go to make education equal for all. I believe Dr. King will be very disappointed with where we are today with educational resources for all students. He will urge us to continue to fight for educational equalities for all people. In 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said this in his "I Have a Dream" speech: "We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horror of police brutality." See, police brutality is not new, but with social media, more people were able to see it in action. We, the black community, have come too far to be beaten to the ground like Rodney King and Eric Garner. Dr. King has seen and experienced police brutality, so I believe that he will also have a very strong perspective on this topic. Like the inequalities in education, I believe Dr. King will be very disappointed and disgusted with the way police are still abusing their power. I personally believe that since police brutality has gone viral, Dr. King will organize another protest and deliver another speech about how policemen should get fired and put in prison for being caught harming another citizen of the USA or just abusing their power as a police officer. See, police are supposed to protect and serve the community. If they're not doing so, there's no need for them to be policemen. Dr. King once said, "I decided to stick with love. Hate is too great of a burden to bear." All that means is that hatred is a burden people hold on to when they do not know what love is. I believe that Dr. King would say those police officers have a lot of hate in their heart, and that's why they feel the need to hurt others. Dr. King may have a strong perspective on many things in this world today, and we should keep his dream alive by doing our part to make this world a better place. We all have the ability to make a difference in this world, and it starts by working in our communities first. And before you do something that you will soon regret, think about this. Is this what Dr. King fought for? Is this what Dr. King got beaten up for? And is this what Dr. King died for? Because the world we live in today, we must make good decisions in every area of our lives. Our choices can stop us from living to our potential. And as I close, Dr. King stuck with love because hate was too great of a burden to bear. Regardless of what happened in 2018, take that all out your mind. Always remember to respond with love in all your situations. Thank you and have a great day.
And the first place winner is Tay Ford. Kudos to Mary P. Thomas School. You get the trophy and all sorts of good stuff.
Cherish thy precepts, thy